Hi, everyone. Welcome to TechTO Quick Takes. I'm your host, Alex Reilly, and today we will be chatting about some recent stories making headlines, including WiseDoc's recent payday and Waterloo-based Code's recent raise, and of course, what the tech community can learn from both of these stories. And as always, Alex Norman is here to run through everything and help us break it down. How are you doing, Alex?
Great. Seems like the news has slowed down in the last few weeks.
I know I think there was a lot happening in terms of, funds being announced and fundraisers in general. But of course, I think there's ebbs and flows, as we know, within the ecosystem. So a bit of a slowdown this week. So a shorter episode, but nonetheless, I think still some important takeaways for our community and also unique insights from both of these headlines as well. So we'll start with the news out of from Wise Docs and also just
Let's do
how
it.
the community can, I guess, learn from this and have some takeaways from this. So, before we get into just the relevance of the news in terms of what the ecosystem can take away, what is the news, and also what does WiseDocs do?
Okay. So WiseDocs announced a 9.5 million USD round led by information venture partners with participation from Thomson Reuters Ventures and Manchester Story.
Mhm.
WiseDocs automates and reviews, indexes, and summation of medical records to streamline insurance claims processing.
Okay, and so again, question that we always get asked is just, how and why are they able to raise? And, this is a significant round in my opinion. So how are they able to, I guess, make this come together?
I think there's a few things here. First, there's momentum behind the company. You know, and there's a large market. So let's break that down. In 2023, they doubled their customer base and a 3.5 times increase in growth rate. I don't know if that means they were growing 3.5 times faster, or they grew
Mhm.
3.5 times, but and that came off in basically an entry into the United States. So here's a company that now shown, hey, we can go from Canada, we can enter the United States.
Yep.
Um, we've doubled in a year. Growth, whatever that means, has gone up by 3.5x. So you have momentum that looks like you can grow fast, which is what you need to be a successful venture scale company. Second
Mhm.
thing is the claims market for insurance is a massive space. It has many players. It has been historically very time intensive. So if you can imagine what happens is you make a claim, it goes to insurer, it gets reviewed. Maybe there's some software where the legal team gets involved,
Yep.
the medical team gets involved, and it's cost intensive. It's one reason insurance is probably so expensive. So here you got some machine learning language, some AI that can automate the process, save the company's money, and improve, which also improves customer service because you get resolved faster.
Mhm.
Um, and it's a large opportunity. So you got company with momentum, you got what looks like a big market. It gets easier to raise.
I like what you said about improving customer service because I think that seems to be a huge pain point. I know customer service is a pain point for a lot of it.
It's
Like,
actually interesting. A lot of
yeah, bold,
times
all of
you
it.
can improve a company and have beneficial impact.
Mhm.
So the insurance companies, they put these processes in there to protect themselves to make against fraud. And that costs them a lot of money and costs them a lot of time. So now they get customers upset because it's
Yeah.
taking longer to question them and it's costing money. If the great thing here is you got a solution which automates the process, hopefully, gets them less false positive, false negatives.
Mhm.
So A, reduce the cost and then reduce the time. So eventually they have either better margins that can pass these things on to customers, and it's a better product because the money's getting claimed faster and there's less follow-up questions. This is not the
Yeah.
only place you see it. A lot of times you see this also in climate tech companies will be a place where I think you see a lot of this. Lots of companies will save money and improve reduce their carbon footprint by just wasting less. And this
Yeah.
is actually before technology. You see this a lot of times. There was when I was working at McKinsey, we'd go and we'd try to get a company more efficient. Oh, this company spends a lot on water in this process. Oh, we can eliminate 90%. The benefit was the company wanted to reduce costs, so we reduced the spend on water, but they could also then claim that they were more climate friendly. So I think one of the
Right.
things that people forget about technology, there's a lot of ways. There's a secondary tertiary effect of actually improving processes.
And one of the things I don't think there's anything more stressful than filing an insurance claim. So I think that also probably is a huge just stress reliever in terms of, again, customer focused. So
Yeah.
everything that you've said is great. So again, lots of reasons why someone would want to raise capital. Growth, obviously, like improvement of platform efficiency, things like that. In this case, why did they want to raise more capital?
Look, they've entered the U.S. market. This is a point, again, in this environment, you have to be very careful with the return on investment on your dollars.
Yep.
Going back 2 years ago, raised $30 million, not sure what you're going to do with it. Yeah, we'll figure it out. It'll be in our balance sheet, but it creates an evaluation overhang. Here, this seems like very clearly intended to accelerate the growth in the U.S. market. They've had successful entry. Now they want to double or triple down by expanding the U.S.
Right. And a couple standout points here, just even from my perspective, that are worth noting, but just hoping you can kind of go through just, what the ecosystem can learn from this news. Because I know there's a few important factors.
Well, WiseDoc started in 2018. This serves as a testament to the fact that establishing and validating a solid market opportunity often requires a significant amount of time. To secure this round of financing, WiseDocs need to demonstrate their ability to compete within the U.S. market and secure several enterprise customers, contracts which they have. I think a lot of Canadian companies get their first customers here. They're not showing quick enough growth because the Canadian market's slower and smaller. And I don't think WiseDocs would have done this without getting to States. And then I think also by penetrating the States in a small way, it gave them the ROI for penetrating the US further. So, hey, we need more money. And also, enterprise deals take a long time. So there's usually this inflection point where you can't really raise that first or second big enterprise deal. And the first or second ones take the longest because that someone in the enterprise has to take a risk on you. And then you might not have everything you need. You might have to get SOC 2. You might have to put additional policies in place. So getting those first few enterprise deals, entering the States, I think are very important. And it goes back to this industry. Some companies experience really rapid growth at the beginning, but many startups take time to get to that velocity. I think the second thing is WiseDocs is applying machine learning to address a problem that is not immediately apparent to end users. I think we'll see a lot of startups that solve problems under the radar that enable individuals and organizations to concentrate more on areas where they can deliver value. So, perfect example, we were talking before, taking water, using climate technology to reduce the spend on products you don't even know are in a product like water or energy are going to be very valuable from like machine learning perspective. Like, hey, how can we redesign our processes? The customer won't have seen anything different, but it'll have created value. And I think there's a lot of stuff that aren't, where you're going to have to be industry experts to see the opportunities.
Okay. And again, I think, as I said, like lots of, I think, important takeaways that you mentioned for just the community in general and why this is really important and why we wanted to talk about it today. So for our next headline, just I think also a fair bit to unpack with this one too. It's just about obviously Waterloo-based code and just their recent announcement, but obviously there are, again, some important takeaways for our community, why we think it's important to talk about this. So to start, I have a bit of a two-parter question again for you. So what the news is, and also if you can break down what code does for those listening.
Okay. Love and hate the name, to be honest, because anytime you try to research them, code is such a general term, especially on internet. It's going to be a pain in the ass for them. Anyways, Waterloo-based code, they announced last week a 6.5 million USD raised. The round was co-led by M13, which is Microsoft's corporate venture capital arm, and Union Square Ventures, with participation from super angels including Balaji, Raj, Gokul, Mert, Mamta, a bunch of people in the crypto space. What code does is it uses the blockchain and crypto to for an effective way for people to make micropayments for digital goods.
Now, I really want to dig into the micropayments aspect of what you just kind of said, because I know that concept is obviously, it's quite complex and personally not a term like I've heard thrown out that much. So I guess what has made micropayments difficult in the past? How is this changing?
This is a complicated question. Not complicated.
I agree.
Micropayments basically say, hey, I want to make a really small payment for something on the web. So that's like saying, hey, I want to, instead of me paying for New York Times monthly subscription, maybe another site, I'm going to pay 10 cents for this access to this article. I'm going to pay 15 cents as a tip. The reason people want micropayments to exist is there's a view that the original sin of the first browser and the internet as a whole was not to enable micropayments to start with. So we went to ad-based models, which has led to the shitification of the internet. People game SEO to save money on distribution. We have a ton of ads, which slow down sites. Lots of content's produced to just sell ads. So lots of people are like, have this, the original sin on the internet is we don't have micropayments. So we went to this ad-based model. So let's get micropayments. And so I think ever since like 97 or 98, people have been trying to do micropayments. The problem is, historically, you've had to use the payment rails that exist. It could be Visa or MasterCard's rails or someone else. And the biggest issue was, cultural people aren't used to paying small amounts. And the second thing is, when you use someone else's rails, there's a significant cost. Visa or MasterCard may charge you 30 cents plus a commission. So if you're doing a 30-cent payment and you have to pay 30 cents to use it, you might be even losing money. Many people have tried to hack around the system, and it's complex to make it work. What's been out there is either not user-friendly or not economical, and it hasn't worked to date.
And okay, so obviously it hasn't worked to date. So how is Code managing, I guess, to improve upon the micropayment system, and how are they making it work? Because it does sound to me like, I mean, there's still obviously, it is very complex. Lots of improvements need to be made.
So Code is built upon the Kin cryptocurrency infrastructure. Kin was originally built to allow transactions in thousands of pennies. So they basically built crypto that goes on an infrastructure that is a payment rails that was designed from scratch to basically enable micropayment.
And I mean, maybe you're not going to like this question, but like, is there a catch? Like what is the catch?
I wouldn't say it's a catch. There is a complication at this point.
Okay.
I think if you look at the app, it looks very simple, very easy. You can do the micropayments, makes economic sense. But right now, Code is a cryptocurrency, and it's hard to change that into fiat currency and back. So you're now trapped into an exchange. Maybe there's more user adoption. It'll be easier to change it back and forth to US dollars and Canadian dollars. But until then, that is a not significantly small barrier. It's actually important for many people.
And why, I guess, is the team able to build upon just the cryptocurrency?
Well, this is actually a very interesting story. So the founder is Ted Livingstone. He's the one behind Code. And this is like a derivative of derivative of derivative. So this, Mr. Livingstone was the CEO of Kik, which was, I don't know, did you ever use Kik?
I don't think so, no.
Do you know what it is?
I don't know what it is, no.
Okay, Kik was Waterloo-based. It was a popular messaging app. It was in competition with the other ones back in, let's say, the late zeros or early tens. Was really well used. It was backed by Union Square Ventures, but it was not the winner. So one of the things they did was they then built Kin to enable, to reward people using the Kik network. Kin survived, Kik didn't. Code was built as a way to validate the Kin network. And then basically the original Kik team sold Kik, used the proceeds to build Code, and they understood this blockchain inside out. They understand distribution. They knew all the players. They were able to now get additional funding from Union Square Venture, who was an original backer of Kik and saw how they built. And also Union Square Ventures has had a long belief that Web3 micropayments would exist. So Code could not exist I don't think by any other founders, because they had an unfair advantage with both the investors, with the network, and it being basically, this is like a third derivative original startup.
Right. And so when you say Kik was like a popular messaging app, you mean kind of similar to like an MSN Messenger or something like that?
Yes.
Okay. I was a big MSN Messenger person. You even had the trick with the control space to like make it disappear when you were in class if you were talking to people between class. So
I went ICQ. I guess I went ICQ and BlackBerry Messenger, then Apple.
Yeah, I was BBM as well. When I got a BlackBerry eventually when I was in high school, BBM was big, but I know on our laptops, it was MSN Messenger. But no, very interesting. I'm surprised I've never heard of Kik, because obviously that was, the instant messaging was big in my generation, especially around that time. Okay, so just lastly, again, kind of why we're here and why we're pulling these headlines specifically is there's some interesting takeaways. So why would the ecosystem find this interesting?
So before I go, before I leave them, Kik had hundreds of millions of concurrent users, so it
Mhm.
was relatively large at the time. Um,
Yeah.
so first thing is the micropayments
Hmm.
is identify something that happens in the tech community. There's a problem that needs to be solved, and group after group try to attempt it. Every time there's a new technology and a qualified founder that understands the problem space, they'll get venture money and they'll try to solve it. And sometimes the change, either from a technology or customer behavior change, has not happened yet, or regulatory change has not happened, and it doesn't work. And so it becomes one of those ideas where a smart founder will understand all the other times it hasn't worked and why the current technology could enable it to happen, or current changes can happen.
Hmm.
And well, so there's, and if it'll be hard to raise money, but there are always people willing to fund it if, for the right team, right technology change, right behavioral change. So it's one of those things. It'll be always like, okay, it's impossible to do until it's possible. Um, and in particular, this one is, goes back to lots of VCs and early founders feel like they want to get rid of the original sin and enable people to pay for stuff instead of see advertisements. So that's just interesting, and there's probably a bucket of problems that people try
Hmm.
to solve before. One, Instacart originally was Webvan. Last mile delivery was Cosmo. Now you got DoorDash. So sometimes people try to solve the right problem and have a right idea. It just the technology and behavioral change, and it's not there. So hopefully this is the time for micropayments. Um, Lastly, which I think is also important, some people go, why could this team raise?
Yeah.
Um, Look, it helps have long-term relationships with VCs. USV was backing these guys 10, 15 years ago, has seen what they do, and they saw, hey, maybe Kick didn't work, but it was not the right idea, and we like this founder, we like this team, let's back him, we have confidence in them. And also, it's also good to understand what VCs are passionate about. So in this case, USV had a relationship with the founders, and also this is one of the problems they believe that need to be solved. So it's probably, I'm going to say it's an easy, but it was probably an easier conversation to start up and see if there was interest from and back. So I think a lot of times founders say, "Oh, why was this person able to raise this crazy idea that doesn't have much traction?" They, that founding team's probably leaning into a relationship they've had for more than 6 months.
Right.
So
Okay.
the community doesn't realize that it's just like everything else in life. Long-term relationships and validation helps, and I think it's Mark Suster has a point: is VCs like investing in lines and not dots, and lots of times founders go try to raise off a dot.
Right. Okay. So maybe just going off script and throwing this out there to you, um, you just, again, you went into the whole importance of the long-term relationships and how they were able to go back to VCs that had worked with them before. And obviously they had a relationship built. What would you suggest for founders today who maybe are having a hard time building those long-term relationships, given that's so important with, like, I guess in this instance?
So there's a few shortcuts. None of them are
Okay.
easy. There's like lots of VCs are looking for super founders. So what does that mean? It's either founders in a second company or founders being a scaled company. So if you're at Shopify or you're
Okay.
at Wealthsimple or any company that's growing really quickly, and you're relatively you can prove that you have some autonomy and you're some responsibility. It could be you put yourself out there and talk to a VC and say, "Hey, I'm an expert. I'm focusing on payments. Or I'm focusing on go to market. I'm happy to help any of your portfolio companies." So you have the credibility because you're at a scaled company, and you'll
Okay.
be able to build a relationship by showing how you can help with portfolio company. That's one hack. Uh, Another one is somehow getting funded the first time, and there's a couple of founders I've backed. If their company doesn't work out, I'll be there right for the next one because I've seen what they do, seen how they operate.
Okay.
Um, I think it's hard because most venture capitalists, it's just like any executive doesn't have lots of spare time, doesn't want to, so it's
Mhm.
finding a way to get into their sphere and add value and leverage the credibility you have. Maybe it's going to hackathons or a judge at, and then after breaking up a conversation, it's like, how do you build any long-term relationship with someone?
Yeah. No, it's true. And I think it has to be mutually beneficial, right? Equally for
Yeah.
obviously the investor and for the founder too. But no, I think that's just a very cool place to leave it, because we have talked about this before in past episodes about how some of these fundraisers have come together from, you know, founders who founded multiple companies. And again, it's going back to these relationships they'd built over time, but even first time founders too, just maybe again, they didn't get the investment first round, but they just built solid rapport with an investor or a team. And again, it's just, they have that relationship that's been built. So I think that's a good place to leave it. It was a shorter episode today, but I think also we've been talking a lot about just where we see the show going and also what we want to start covering more of just this season in general. So again, for our community that's listening, if you want us to dive deeper into more frequently asked questions, or have it be more of an AMA more frequently, or even just cover everything that happened from an entire month and do these episodes once a month, we would love to hear your feedback. Just if you're enjoying the cadence, you want to see more of it, you want to see them maybe longer, but less often, obviously leave us a comment and let us know. I don't know if you have
Want us
anything
to
to
cover
add.
American news? Let us know.
Yeah, of course. And anything just North American wide in general. That's a good point. Okay. And so, yeah, just leave us a comment. We would love to hear from you. And just quickly before we go, events news, because we've announced a couple more and we have one tonight that's happening at Rotman. Very exciting. Again, expecting, 300 plus technologists from all across Toronto, Canada, coming into town for this one. And we're obviously happy to be back at Rotman for this. And February 26th, we have a TechTO marketing event. So again, very much marketing specific in, today's realm of everything that's relevant to the marketing sector within tech. We also have an insider virtual AMA session where Alex and Jason will answer your questions and help you, I guess, on your journey or meet your goals wherever they are at. So if you're not an insider, you need to join the community in order to attend that. If you are an insider, make sure that you register for that. And then March 18th, we're at City Hall for Best of TechTO. And all of these available on our website at techto.org. I'll also post the link in our show notes. There's a lot, but anything you want to add, Alex?
No, I think you've covered everything beautifully.
Okay, thank you. It was a lot coming up, and obviously more we'll keep announcing. I know we just locked down a date for Montreal in April, so we'll be promoting that as well. Very excited to go back and meet more of the community out there. I mean, if that's it from your end, Alex, just once again, thank you for being here and for diving deeper into these headlines. We really appreciate it. And if you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to, as always, like and subscribe wherever you're watching or listening. As we said, please leave us a comment on what you want to hear more of, and also how frequently you want to hear from us as well. We would really appreciate it. And we'll see you very soon with another episode of TechTO Quick Takes. And until then, we'll see you on the inside.
We're in the business of delivering impossible things. We're in the business of delivering things that nobody's ever seen before.
If you build that culture, you'll come up with really cool and innovative stuff, and literally could be in the next multi-billion-dollar idea.
So this conversation is largely going to be about scaling yourself and scaling your leadership team.
I want to talk about one of the biggest struggles that I think a lot of startups face early on, which is building initial traction.